everybody and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Shreya. I make book videos and I would love it if you could hit subscribe. Guys, I'm so happy and I'm feeling so content right now because February was one of my best reading months ever I've ever had in my entire life. So many good books, so many insightful books. We had multiple 5 stars, which I feel like never happened. It was a good month. I read 18 books, which is crazy, and I'm just so excited to get started. I'm gonna first share with you all of my physical books that I read, and then I'll go over the book that I read on my Kindle. So this month I read Betting on You by Lynn Painter. I read this for a video that I'll link down below. It was my video of reading cutesy little books to just feel like I love because February is love month. It's Valentine's Day. Always hated that holiday, but I was trying not to. So if you want to see my full thoughts, my reaction, definitely go watch that video and you can see everything there. I'm not going to go into full depth in this video, but overall, Lynn Painter, she just knows how to articulate the feelings of being a teenager and just being that like awkward, cringy self and making it cute. I will say this book was my least favorite out of them all. Basically the premise is that Bailey and Charlie, they have these like weird encounters throughout the years, and then they finally start working at the same place and they make a bet that boys and girls cannot just be friends, which is literally such a middle school, high school thing to do. That kind of like sparks their little romance. I gave this one a 3 stars just because it didn't get me better than the movie. It wasn't even that good at the do-over, but it was still cute. I just think that I didn't really feel the romance. I couldn't picture Bailey or Charlie at all. Like I couldn't picture them in my head, and I don't know. Something was just missing in this book, but it is adorable and I'm so glad to have it because it's literally so cute. I will collect all of her books till the day I die just because of how cute it is. Okay, next I read Almond. This was also in a video. This was in me reading Booktuber's 5-star books. I love that video, so I'll also link that one down below. Go watch it to see my full thoughts on this. It is a short book, but basically this is about a boy who was born with a condition where his brain is super small. It's smaller than normal, and that makes him act and behave differently, and it's genuinely very interesting because this is a real condition, but basically he doesn't feel emotions. He doesn't have fear, he doesn't have anger when he's supposed to be sad, he doesn't feel sad. He just kind of learns these emotions because his mom is like forcing him to know like social cues and what to do when a certain situation happens. So it is so interesting to read about. I really did enjoy this book. It was very interesting because I thought it was going to take a lot of turns and it never did. Like it went in places that I never thought it was going to go, and because of that I gave it a 3.5. I genuinely think that this had the potential to be a 4 or a 5-star book. However, I just don't think that the author went deep enough or explored certain situations enough, if that makes sense. However, definitely different than anything else I've ever read, and I totally recommend it. Okay, next I read If Only I Had Told Her by Laura Nolan. This is the second book. The first one is If He Had Been With Me. I love that book. I think I gave it 4.5 or 5 stars, and I knew going into this book that it was going to destroy me. And the thing is, sometimes these books are cash grabs. Like, let's be real, when Coho released It Starts With Us, that book did not need to exist. I did not like that at all. But I didn't feel like this book was a cash grab. I honestly thought that it was done really well. We get 3 point of views in here. So we get Finn, we get Autumn, and then we get Jack, which is Finn's best friend. And it really added a lot of insight, a lot of depth, a lot of different perspectives to it, and I really did enjoy it. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I know that some people thought that it didn't need to exist or it fell flat, but I just have such a soft spot in my heart for Finn and Autumn that I was eating it up. I needed anything that this author could give me, and it was heartbreaking and I cried. Especially like getting Finn's point of view was really crazy to me because I don't know, that saddened so much. Like I needed Finn's point of view. I do think maybe it could have been like a novella where we just got Finn's point of view, but I appreciated getting Jack and I appreciated getting Autumn. So if you read the first book, this book kind of takes us to the events that were like right before Finn's death, and then we get after with Jack and Autumn. So if you love the first book, I recommend this one. I recommend you give it a read. It is emotional, it's good, and overall I really enjoyed this. Okay, speaking of new releases, I read Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This was one of my most anticipated releases of 2024. I love the cover. This is her first paranormal romance. So this is basically a vampire falling in love with a werewolf, and that's all you need to know to go into this book. Like, yes, there's politics between the vampires and the werewolves not liking each other, and the different vampires and the different werewolves, and there's spice in this book. I don't know why I thought this was YA, but it's not. It's like really not. There's a lot of spice scenes. I mean, not a lot, but like spice scenes really like traumatized me. Okay, I'm still traumatized thinking about the spice scenes in this book, and if you read this book, you understand. You do. I have never read anything, I think they call it the Omegaverse. I don't even know what that is, and I don't want to know. Like, it's just so scary. But I did enjoy this. Like, it was very unique. It was very different from Ali Hazelwood. I still think Check and Mate is my favorite book that she has written, which I know is not a popular opinion, but I did give this one 4 stars, but now that I'm thinking about it, it would be more like a 3.5, 3.75. But if you're interested in this book, I highly do recommend it because it just, I don't know, it's just so crazy. And to me, when I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much that you can do with writing and writing a book. Like, you really push the boundaries and do something really crazy. Next, oh my gosh, I found what is perhaps one of my favorite series of all time. So this book I read also in the same video that I read Almond in, where I was reading BookTuber's 5-star books, and I had very low expectations for it, and that is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. Okay, this is literally a giant book. It is 550 pages, but the writing is so tiny. Like, what the heck? Also, the original covers have people on the cover, and it's so cringy. So that's why I was like, maybe I can just not read the series at all, because I don't know, I'm just not into it. But this is what I'm saying, because I hate that they have people on the cover, because this book was phenomenal. It was amazing from start to finish. It was so emotional, it was so good, it was so funny, it was perfect. And having the people on the original cover just completely undermines it, and I feel like it's just like shameful a little bit. Oh my god, this book is so good. So this is about Johnny and Shannon, and this takes place in Ireland. They are in high school, and Johnny is a super popular guy. He plays rugby, but Shannon was really bullied. She had a really tough home life. Definitely check trigger warnings if you're gonna read this series. And so she comes to this new school because she was bullied so hard at her last school, and she meets Johnny, and Johnny just feels so sad for her. But the romance is incredible. It's literally so good. I eat it up. There's like no spice in this book, but I love it. Like, it's literally so good. 5 stars. This is a 6-star book. I actually texted my friend. I said, I think I found my first ever 7-star book. So good. If you want to see my in-depth thoughts and reactions, go check out that video. But I'm telling you, I could punch myself for not reading this series sooner. Like, genuinely phenomenal. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. So definitely recommend that. Right after I finished Binding 13, I ran to go get Keeping 13, okay? This book is even bigger than the first one. It's like, what, 650 pages. The writing is still super tiny, but oh my god, I like didn't have super high expectations, because I was like, there's no way this can be better than Binding 13, but it is. That is still 5 stars, 6 stars, 7 stars. This is 5 stars too. So good. We get so much more, and it's so serious and so sad and so heavy, but that's what I love about books. And the romance is just so good, and they're just so caring to one another and just phenomenal, and it's also so funny. It is so funny. The friend group, the found family in this is so good. I hold this series so near and dear to my heart. I cannot wait to read the rest, and oh my god, It's just so good. It's so good. I'm like getting really emotional talking about it right now, and that is crazy. So definitely read the Boys of Tommen series. It's so good. Check trigger warning. Okay, the next book I have to talk about, I have an entire reading vlog for, so go check that out if you want to see all my in-depth thoughts, reactions, and tears, because I cried so much from start to finish in this book, and that is Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. This is probably my most anticipated read of 2024, and it is giant. Like, compared to the other Magnolia Parks books, it is giant. It's 700 pages, and I need 700 more pages. This is Magnolia and BJ's last book ever, and it takes place right after The Long Way Home, and if you have read that book, you know that it ends tragically. So sad, and yes, everything that happened actually happened. I know us fans might have been in denial, but it happened, and because of that, Magnolia has a crazy journey with grief, with moving on with her family. We get to see BJ struggle with that too, and just like all of their issues, because we know they're such a toxic couple, but this one is definitely different than like the first Magnolia Parks, where it was all just like petty drama and it was just so entertaining, and loved it. This one, of course, 5 stars. I've given every single book in the series 5 stars. Between Magnolia Parks and Boys of Tommen, these are my 2 favorite series of all time. I can't pick one, you can't make me, but I highly recommend go checking out that vlog. I feel so lucky to be alive in this moment where I get to read this book, because these characters mean so much to me. I cannot wait to read the next Daisy Hates book. Just like seeing the little breadcrumbs that we get in this book, it's just so good. It's everything that you love about Magnolia Park. I was kind of scared about how Jessa was gonna end this book, but she ended it perfectly. She ended it exactly how it needed to be ended. Jessa's writing, it's just so poetic and beautiful, and it's because of that I cried so many times. The quotes in here are just absolutely immaculate. Okay, and then the last physical book that I read this month is The Wishing Game by Meg Chopra. I found out about this book through Haley Pham. She read this. I had never heard of it, but I'm so glad that I picked it up. I gave this book 4 stars. It is really good. So it's like whimsical, but it's not fantasy. I would say that it's definitely fiction, but basically there is this famous author. He wrote childhood books. They were super whimsical, super fun, and then we have our main character, the girl named Lucy. She is really struggling right now, but she loved the books growing up, and she gets an invitation to go to his house and enter a competition, and whoever wins that competition gets the only copy of his newest book, and she's financially struggling, so she would love to sell the book. This book definitely gives Willy Wonka vibes, if that makes any sense. It's really whimsical. It reminds you why you love reading so much, why reading is so important, why having hopes and dreams is so important even when you're struggling so bad. I cried a lot. As you can tell, I'm getting emotional talking about this book. It was genuinely so good. It's also super short. It's under 300 pages, and I highly recommend this to everyone. I think that all age groups could enjoy it. The way that things come together, and the way that the author weaves different plot points throughout the story, and they come together so beautifully, it's stunning. So definitely recommend this book. It is so good. Okay, next I will go over the books that I read on my Kindle. So the first book that I read is Painted Scars. So this is a dark romance, and I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try. Don't recommend it. I gave it 3 stars, and there's really not much to say about this book other than the fact that it wasn't dark romance. Like, the guy was not, like, he was nice, I guess, and it just wasn't very good. The dialogue wasn't that good. It's on Kindle Unlimited, and I will not be reading the second book. Then I read House of Flame and Shadow, which is actually a big one that I read in February. I have a whole reading vlog. I'll link that one down below if you want to see my full thoughts and opinions. I gave that one 4 stars, but also my reading vlog is like 40 minutes, so go watch that if you want to see all of my thoughts. Then I read Educated by Tara Westover. This is a memoir, and I don't rate memoirs, but it was really good. It was really unique because this girl's life feels a lot like fiction because it's just crazy, but it's not fiction. So basically she grew up really isolated. She didn't go to school. She was uneducated, but home life was really hard for her, so she decided to go and get educated, and she just had a talent. She was super smart, so she ended up going to these really good schools, and she wrote this book. So if you're looking for a good memoir, I highly recommend Educated. Keeping on the memoir trend, I read The Woman in Me by Britney Spears, and I really loved this book. Again, I don't rate memoirs, but it was a good one. It definitely wasn't the best memoir that I've read, but it made me feel really angry and really sad because Britney seemed like such a nice and sweet person, but she had been wronged so many times in her life, and it's just really sad. And just to like see what she was feeling and thinking in certain moments, and then like going on YouTube and like watching the performances, or like watching her on the X Factor and knowing that she was feeling horrible, like it was really interesting to me. So if you are a fan of Britney Spears, I do recommend it, and it was really short. Then I read Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, and oh my god, this is science fiction. I want to say it's like the first real science fiction I read. I did read the Red Rising trilogy, but this one was really science fiction. So it's about a guy who wakes up on a spaceship and everybody's dead around him, and he has no recollection of what happened. So as he is going throughout his day in the middle of space, he's slowly remembering what happened, and it's crazy. Then, oh my god, the thing of this book that was just crazy to me is he meets an alien, like a whole alien, like a different species out in space, and he figures out how to communicate with the alien, and it was the most fascinating stuff I had ever read. I gave this book 3 stars because there was so much science fiction lingo, like so much science, and just like I'm an English gal. So that was just like went over my head, but I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, so I want to give it like a 3.75. I definitely will probably put this book like somewhere in my like yearly wrap up because that's how much I can't stop thinking about it. Like he literally communicates with an alien. It's crazy. There's probably so many books like that, but that's the first one that I've read. Crazy. So recommend it. Great science fiction. I had a 4.51 on Goodreads, which is unbelievably hot. Next, I read Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reed. This was crazy. I read A Study in Drowning, and I really did like that, and I heard that this one is darker and creepier, so I was like, okay, I'll read it. Guys, I think I might have hit a limit. Like, it was really dark and like just creepy and twisty, and I don't know if I loved it, but it is worth the read, I would say. The best way I can describe this is if you like fairy tales, but like Grimm Brothers fairy tales. That is the vibe that this book gives. It is crazy. Like, her father's like a monster, like not like a monster, a literal monster. Whoa. I gave this 3 stars. I enjoyed the ride. I enjoyed reading it, but not for me. So if you're looking for a dark, creepy fantasy, but like fairy tale, like giving Cinderella vibes, Juniper and Thorn. Okay, next I read my book club book of the month, which was The Predator by Lunex, and just like Painted Scars, not worth your read. I gave it 2 stars, probably gonna bring it down to 1. That's how bad it was. No interest in reading the rest of the books. One of the girls in the book club did read the second book. She said it was horrible, so do with that what you will. It was so bad. Like, guys, like the guy wasn't even bad. It was insta love, and it was just bad. It was not good, and so yeah, 2 stars. Don't read it. Maybe dark romance is just not for me, but I feel like there has to be better dark romance, and I want to do a video where I just read dark romance, but it's not been good so far. Next, I read Jade War, which is the second book in the Green Bone trilogy. Thank God this book brought me back because it was just so good. It was really good. So I loved the first one. I read that one and I was just in shock by how good it was, how intricate it was, and just phenomenal book. Like, genuinely so good. If you have read a couple of fantasy series and you're looking for something a little bit more advanced, highly recommend the Green Bone Saga. So I read Jade War and I gave this a 4.5. It was so good. It was everything that I loved about the first book. It was in this book. So I can't give you too much, but I'll give you an overview of the trilogy. So basically, this takes place and it's about kind of gang wars and gang fighting, and they use jade as their source of energy. So it's kind of like a drug where you like put the jade on and you get this unbelievable sense of power, and people are fighting over it. And so this book takes place a couple months after the first book, and it gave everything. It was giving the gang fighting, it was giving the politics. There's not like a singular romance plot throughout this trilogy, but there's like romance, and it's just so good. It is so good. It needs to be turned into a Game of Thrones-esque series, because the vibe is giving so good. 4.5, and I cannot wait to read the third book. It's just phenomenal. Like, it really, reading this trilogy, I'm like, oh my god, like the fantasies I've been reading is nothing to this caliber. So Greenbone Saga, highly recommend. Okay, next I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I literally read it because my dad told me to. And this book is about like money-making habits and habits on how to start thinking like a rich person and make money. And I love making money, and I need to make money because it's not looking good right now. But I gave this one a 3 stars. I don't know if I like should rate it or not. I just didn't think that the tips were that good. I just thought that the guy that wrote it was maybe a little bit out of touch with reality, and I don't know, some of the concepts were good. It had me thinking about money in a different way, but for the most part, I didn't love it. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. And then the last book that I read was None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I have been seeing this book everywhere, so I really, really wanted to read it. I will say this, I did read it in one sitting. This book had me on the edge of my seat from page 1, things are happening. So basically, this book is about 2 women, and they find out that they're birthday twins, but they don't find that out till they're like 45, I think, and their lives start intertwining, and they do a podcast together, and it's like the birthday twins podcast. But as this lady is talking about her life, we quickly find out that she's like a little crazy, like it's really insane. And then we get both ladies' points of views, and it's just crazy. It's a crazy book. If you love thrillers, I do recommend it. I gave it 3 stars though, because everything was leading up to this big plot twist, and like something big was gonna happen, and then we got to the end and nothing big happened. Like nothing plot twisty happened, nothing crazy happened, and that's the reason why I only gave it 3 stars, because it would have been so good for maybe even 5-star quality if it had like a plot twist. So I gave that one 4 stars, but it's still pretty good as far as thrillers go. Alright everybody, that is it for my February reading wrap up. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was long. I know my mouth hurts from talking so much, but I hope you guys all had a wonderful February, a wonderful reading month. This was one of my best months ever, and I cannot wait to see you guys in March. Bye!